Hi folks, welcome to the AbilityNet podcast with me, Amy Lowe, and our guest, Alistair McNaught. Well, I suppose it's fair to say that there's a bit of a sense of panic in the air. The public sector web accessibility legislation was a bit of a wake-up call to colleges and universities. They were just beginning to recognise the challenges their digital systems and online content were posing for disabled learners when along comes COVID-19 and forces staff to put all their lessons online. At AbilityNet, we've been joining up our expertise, which is accessibility within the commercial and third sector, with Alistair McNaught's expertise in further and higher education. And one of the many things that we've been working on together includes an accessibility maturity model. So Alistair, why do we need an accessibility maturity model?
Well, very simply, we need a maturity model to make accessibility visible to organisations.
But surely accessibility is more visible now than it has been in the previous 20 years.
Well, it's getting more visible, but at the moment it's like doing a dot-to-dot picture where some of the dots are missing. So some people end up drawing camels and others draw donkeys, but neither of them are right. It's actually a picture of a car. And we're in this position because most organisations still look at disability as a binary concept. You either have it badly enough to get specific support, or you don't. It's a very outdated model, like travelling by donkey and camel. But the social model of disability identifies the problem in the way the environment is constructed. So if I use a wheelchair, my disability becomes irrelevant in buildings with ramps and lifts. Equally, if I'm dyslexic or visually impaired, my disability becomes irrelevant if online resources are designed so they work with the assistive technologies I need.
I like the idea of the join the dots picture, but how does the maturity model fit into this?
Well, the maturity model makes sure that before people join the dots, they see what the final picture should look like. It's helping to fill in the missing dots.
What are the missing dots? Are they the same in most organisations, or do they differ from one place to another?
Every organisation has its own missing dots. Each dot in the picture is someone who understands accessibility within their role. Every organisation has people passionate about accessible practices, but in some organisations it will be a librarian. In another, it will be the IT manager or the head of e-learning. Maybe it will be the head of department whose own child had a disability. The issue is that the accessibility good practices in one part of the organisation can be undermined by a lack of accessibility awareness in another.
I see. So the maturity model provides a framework or big picture that helps an organisation to see where their own gaps are.
Exactly. Once you can see the big picture, you can see which dots you already have in place and which ones are missing, and that helps you with priorities and strategies.
Maturity models have been around for many years, and indeed AbilityNet have developed a maturity model for use with businesses and commercial organisations. How is this one any different?
Well, this one has been around for years too. I first developed it around 2006 while conducting research for a further education senior manager briefing. Shortly afterwards, my colleague Simon Ball at Tokenism did similar research among higher education leaders, and we worked together to develop an online accessibility self-assessment service based on the model. The critical difference, though, between your business models and an education model is that education is more complex and multidimensional.
Multi-dimensional. We're getting into the realms of Star Trek or Doctor Who here.
Well, funny you should mention that, because a teaching group is a little bit like the TARDIS. There's a lot more going on inside than appears from the outside. It's not just about pouring content into students. It's about building rapport, creating supportive networks, engaging the disengaged. It's about finding alternative ways for students to demonstrate their understanding. And that is why accessibility isn't just about technology and standards. Inclusive practice is also about pedagogy. It's about the way you teach. The higher levels of the maturity model are not focused primarily on standards, but on awareness, transparency, creativity, and collaboration.
Sounds brilliant. Do you want to take us through some of the key points in the model?
Yeah, well, let's do it together.
Okay. So the model's a matrix with 5 columns, one for each stage of accessibility maturity. Stage 1 is luck.
Yep. And at this stage, you're just hoping for the best, that you're lucky enough to not have any disabled learners or have disabled learners that don't complain.
Yes. Okay. Good luck with that. And stage 2 is tokenism. What do you mean by that?
Well, it means there's an awareness of disability and probably a very committed disability support team. But their job is to help learners negotiate barriers which shouldn't even exist in the first place. That's why I describe it as tokenism. It's not a reflection of the work of the disability support team, but a reflection of the organisation's lack of understanding of the social model of disability.
Ah, I see. Okay. And then at stage 3 is standards. By this, I assume you mean web content accessibility guidelines.
Yeah. Here the focus is on making sure the website and the VLE are all standards compliant. It's probably the first sign of institutional awareness that accessibility belongs to everybody. But the trouble is it can have unintended consequences.
What sort of consequences?
Well, if this standards level is implemented in a heavy-handed way, it discourages people from putting content online. It discourages people from using videos or interactivities, etc. So, ironically, improved technical accessibility can lead to decreased pedagogical accessibility.
Okay, so I guess that leads us on to stage 4, ownership.
Yeah, that's the point where all staff, are trained to be flexible, creative and adaptable with digital tools. Now, not all the tools they work with or all the systems they work on will yet be 100% accessible, but the staff will know what to look for and how to minimise or work around barriers.
So much more creative approach to accessibility at this level. I love it. Okay.
Indeed, yeah.
So that brings us to the final stage, partnership.
Yes, the nirvana of accessible practice, where disabled staff and students are actively involved in advising on maybe course design, course assessments, tool choices, etc.
So if an organisation is using this model, how do they decide which level they're at?
Well, we've just described the 5 columns in the model from luck through to partnership, but there are 9 rows that go below it, each covering a different question. So questions include some of the following, like what is the main driver for accessibility? Who is responsible? Which disability model is in play? What is the student's digital experience? And for each of those 9 questions, we have different statements that reflect where you might be on each stage of the model, depending on which statement is closest to your organisation.
So it's quite self-reflective, and an organisation could then be at different maturity levels depending on which question they're looking at.
Yeah, almost certainly, Amy. I think more to the point, depending on who you ask in the organisation, you're likely to get different answers.
Does that make the model less useful?
No, far from it. It makes the model more useful because remember, we're trying to explore the big picture. And if the big picture is a car, but one department thinks they're looking at the camel and another thinks they're looking at the donkey, you need to know internally that those differences are there, or the experience of your disabled student is going to be significantly compromised.
How do you imagine organisations using the model?
Well, I think the starting point is to get senior managers and relevant steering groups involved at the beginning. Any sort of self-assessment is potentially, well, I suppose it's a bit vulnerable, and it needs to be sold in a positive way. It also needs to be solution focused, and we've done some work signposting for each level how you might move your organisation to the next level. And once you get a sense as to what level you're on, or even how it varies across the institution, we can suggest options for DIY improvements, things you can do yourself, resources you can reference and learn from, as well as external support that AbilityNet or myself or others could give.
Sounds great. So can organisations only go up one level at a time? Could an organisation move from level 2 to level 5 all in one go?
Well, I think it would be tricky because we're talking about cultures here, and even down to the level of job descriptions and quality assurance processes, etc. They're all going to be part of the final model and part of the final mix. So accessibility is a journey, and the two golden rules of any journey are to know where you're heading and to put one foot in front of the other.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm sure all of our listeners are keen to know how they can get hold of our accessibility maturity model and make use of it to help them gauge where they are in each area and what they should be prioritising to get to the next level.
There's a number of ways, actually. First, we've published the basic maturity model at, if people are handy with their pens, bit.ly/HE-FE maturity. That's HE-FE in capitals and maturity in lowercase with no gaps between. Second, we're also working on an interactive version that guides users through the questions and gives them feedback at each point. And thirdly, you can book a guided session with AbilityNet and McNaught, where we'll set up an online meeting with the institution and with key stakeholders, and we'll walk with you and talk with you through the questions, either from an institution-wide perspective, or we could look at multiple departments or multiple stakeholder responses to these questions, and you will then receive a personalized report recommending the next steps and any services that might be of use to help you move forward.
Great. Well, that sounds like a really good range of options that people can tap into. Well, thank you so much, Alistair, for your time today. And thanks for listening, everybody. We're really looking forward to getting your feedback on the model and working with some of you at a deeper level with it.
Indeed. Thank you very much for the time, Amy.